Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the White Deer Filmmaking Podcast, brought to you by the White Deer International Film Festival. I'm Alistair Railton, co-director of the film festival, alongside, first time in front of the camera as well, Mr. Adam Sandy, one of our other co-directors, formerly known as Just Being on the Wire. Welcome, Adam.
Now I'm in front of the camera. Yeah, amazing.
Well, it's promotion, my friend. Obviously, Mark Wisdom, our third co-director, will also be featured in the actual interview itself, so you'll be able to see him as well. So in today's episode, it's an exciting one. It's Stephen King based, and it's brought to us by Hendrik Harms and his team, which made the film All That You Love Will Be Carried Away. This film won the Best Ensemble Cast in our September-October film festival bi-monthly period. So it's a very exciting episode coming up for you guys to listen to.
I think there's some really interesting bits in there as well. There's just a couple of bits to watch out for. You'll realise that Hendrik is sitting in front of a Christmas tree. It's not Christmas now, but it was when we recorded it, so don't worry about that. He's probably not got his Christmas tree still up now, so you'll be glad to hear of that. And his camera cuts out at one point in it, so we switch to the Skype audio for a few minutes, but then we're back to his good quality audio. So that's it, apart from a new thing that we're starting this week. Do you want to tell us about that, Al?
Yes, of course. So for our first 50 listeners of this podcast episode, we will be given a discounted entry code to the White Deer International Film Festival. This code will allow you discounted rates on all entry fees to any of the categories that our film festival represents. So make sure you listen all the way through to catch that.
Right, let's get to it then.
So without further ado, here we go.
Here's Hendrik.
All That You Love Will Be Carried Away. I guess the sort of opening question we'd like to sort of ask is, obviously it's based on a short by Stephen King, from our understanding. So I guess how did the you first kind of develop that, adapt that story from that novel, and what was the kind of process you went through turning that into a short film?
Well, I found it really interesting because a few years ago I heard about this Dollar Baby program that Stephen King runs, and he likes up-and-coming filmmakers or students or anyone like that. You can pay him $1 and it gives you access to like 16 of his short stories. Right. And you can pick one off the list, and then you go out and get the book and adapt it how you would like. I'd seen one a few years ago. He did a adaptation of a Sherlock Holmes story, which was pretty wild. And I quite wanted to do that, but after a while I was thinking no, because Sherlock Holmes is a bit done to death at the moment. I wanted to try something a bit more unusual. And so when I was looking for the different and various stories, I came across All That You Love Will Be Carried Away. I ummed and ahed about it a little bit. I'd just done a first short called The Music Box, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do for the next project. And I thought having Stephen King's name attached to something would be really interesting. And when I looked into it more, I saw that Frank Darabont in the 80s, he did one. And after that, obviously got Shawshank Redemption and things. So right. It can do quite a lot of things for you, open a lot of doors, because, again, it's just the name, it helps. And so after that, I got the book. It's only like 20 pages long, and it's about a travelling salesman called Alfie who finds graffiti in various toilets as he travels around, and he's really depressed and he thinks about killing himself, but he's worried that if someone finds his book, they will think he's crazy. And so he goes outside and he sees a farmhouse that was earlier in the film, and there was a porch light on, and now it's off. He puts a gun to his head and starts counting to 60, and if the porch light comes on, he won't kill himself, and he'll publish the book. And if it doesn't, he'll kill himself, and he'll chuck the book into a hedge and kill himself. So that was the kind of basic original story. And there was a few adaptations online already from the Dollar Baby thing, and I had a look at those, but I was unsure about it. Well, you're not meant to put them online for starters, but people are cheeky. And I looked at a few of these adaptations, and a lot of them were single characters, like the story, very faithful, and it was a lot of monologuing. And well, even like when I said for this interview, like something dynamic and watching, like I think the average attention span now is 8 seconds for like a video or something like that, isn't it? To actually try and hold someone.
Yeah.
Most TV shows will have a shot that lasts 2 seconds before they change it, because people just don't have the attention span anymore. And I thought, if you're going to present a short film to someone where it's just someone talking in their head for the whole time about graffiti, it wouldn't be what I wanted. So I started to think about how could I change it to adapt it into something more dynamic, and that's why I came up with the idea of what if I brought the graffiti to life as characters, and then and then the story just kind of built from there, really.
Excellent. And of course, those characters, which the performances from them, that's what introduces to us, because obviously that really captured us. Hence why you won the award that you did, was Best Ensemble Cast. Did you find it was a challenge to bring in different, completely different characters from across any kind of spectrum that you may want to look at? There's such a variety there. Was that a challenge for you in writing it, or making sure that you captured that? Was that something that you really worked hard on?
I think really what I was most proud of, because it's all a process that, like, from beginning to end, isn't it? Your script is very much a blueprint, and when I wrote them, I wanted this. I first obviously came up with, without ruining it, the twist of how I could pull all the characters together, and then I started assigning personalities to them. And what I really wanted to do was to show Alfie's kind of warped perception of reality. I gave characters like the drug addict probably the most helpful roles, and ones like the psychiatrist almost like the antagonist roles to him. And so I wanted to subvert how to play on his mental illness, to show how he views the world. And as I started writing these characters, actually, like, this isn't what I said, so I'm not trying to blow my own horn here, but so, like, our third AD, when they came on, they said they read the script and they said he was really impressed with how in-depth the characters were for such a short period of time. So I was quite proud of that. And then the actors themselves, they went away and they heavily researched it, because I didn't cast in the usual way. I actually gave a screenshot of, say, like a heroin needle, and I put 3 words on it of what I think summed up the character. And then that's what I sent out for people. So they had to come up with their own monologues, or find a monologue that they thought fit that particular character. And so, and I got over 100 applications for it.
Oh,
and the whole reason, yeah. Stephen King helped, I think, get the name.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to do it was because, obviously, I suppose this is a bit of a spoiler, but not an overly big one. The characters you find out very early on in the film aren't real. And what I really didn't want was, I didn't want to put that into the audition process, because I really thought it would skew the perception of the actors. What I wanted them to do was play them as if they were real people. I wanted to see the audition and see how they came to me and playing these characters. Whereas if I put in that they were fake, they might have upped the stereotypicalness of it. Whereas if they didn't have any script to go by, I could actually see what they were giving me and see if they had the right kind of energy. And that's how we got that cast, because they were fantastic. Honestly, what a blessing to have them.
Is it? Have you done something similar before, where you've cast in a non-traditional way, or is this something very new?
That was new. The last film only had like 1 character in it.
Right, okay.
So this was a bit of a difference. And like my producer, when she came on board, I asked her, I was like, let's do this. And then I gave her the script, and she was basically like, why are there so many characters in this? And I was like, my bad. I mean, the Christmas one we've just done, I said, all right, I'm gonna scale it back, I'll do less. And then when I gave her the script, she went, it's the same amount. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I got carried away. But I think probably the biggest challenge was, because they weren't there, it was we had to roll the scenes. And obviously at some stages you could have like all 8 of them around, but they're all appearing at different times, so we would have to be rolling it, and then we'd have to just yell pause, and then you'd see them run in, stand, and then we'd be like go, and we just have to do it that way. Because in the end, I think my first AD, she turned to me and she just went I don't know what's happening anymore. She went, I'm trusting that this idea and this vision, you've got this in your head. And I was like, I think so. I'm pretty sure we're on track. Editing was, interesting.
Yeah. Fantastic, yeah.
How much sort of flexibility did you give the actors with their performances? Like sort of how much did you give them room to improvise, or was it kind of very heavily inspired by the original works, perhaps?
I would say because of we only had 5 days. We had 5 days to shoot, and we had a $3,500 budget.
Yep.
And obviously we had eight cast members. And we were in a hotel room in the middle of summer, and it was an absolute furnace, especially when we had all the neon lights up as well. It was insane. So basically what I said to them, when we went into every scene, because sometimes, like the last scene alone is about 12 minutes long because it's got a lot of reveals in it, and to do the amount of setups, we basically just had to set the camera up and just go for like full 7-8 minutes, and just like they had to get the whole scene. So I had to say to them, I was like, look, I trust you guys. I'd seen them throughout the week. They were all off book. They had a really good understanding of their characters and the script, and so I was just like, go nuts. The only thing I asked for, some continuity between takes, and the one thing that absolutely has to be hit every single time is the exact wording of the graffiti, because obviously that was all integral to the final stage of the plot. So for the most part, I gave them free rein, because I had Skype conversations, and they did Skype. What was nice, I found out afterwards, there were Skype people that had, like, the character of Alfie and Zoe, they quite heavily interacted with each other throughout the film, and so they were actually having Skype conversations themselves before shooting, and they all got really, really close, because one thing I wanted as well was I didn't want everyone to turn up cold. So we did a table read. My friend owns a pub, and we did a table read where they do like the best homemade pizza and beer on site. And so I was like, come along for the day, and we gave them all goodie bags where they had like different things that for their characters, and we all just had some drinks, had pizza, and we reenacted the film, and we just had the top part of the pub, and we just did it up there for the day. And what I wanted was to really like get them to break the ice, because they're all part of him in a way, and so they all had to have that comfortableness that they'd been there the whole time. So it was really important to me, and I think once you had that, once you built up the real life relationships, I think it was much easier to translate that to the set.
Definitely. Yeah. Did it help to make a more a freer team, so people could feel like they could present their own ideas, and I suppose I think in the stuff that we've done, we found that whenever everyone feels comfortable, they are able to share their ideas in a way that they don't feel uncomfortable doing, and we've always found that helps to create the better overall project. So was that the sort of thing that you found as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I set up a WhatsApp group just for the cast and myself, and so everyone could and I made it clear very early on with a variety of memes and GIFs that it was going to be a very light-hearted affair, and I just wanted to, and the group's still going today, and I still speak to them all today. So it was a very important process, because you had to, in a way, Alfie, although he's the main character, his character is actually, I would say, in a way, Jack played him phenomenally, but I didn't give Jack a lot, because although he's in every scene, the character of Alfie is actually rather two-dimensional. It's all the other fake ones that actually make up his personality. So it's how they're interacting with him in the scene, and that was the real trick, to try and get them to a stage where you believed you were watching almost like the derailing of one person and his psyche fighting with one another. That was kind of, and I think absolutely, I think you're completely right, that making sure the actors are in that comfortable space every time, 100%.
What was the biggest surprise for you, would you say? Was it like a characterization side which thought, I've never even considered that, and that's just made it so much better? Was there something like an occasion where that happened, or something where you really felt, that's just very interesting, and it hasn't sort of occurred to you beforehand when it's gone from the page to being presented? Is this a moment like that?
Yeah, there was a few, like the character of Rosie. She was basically meant to play like the kind of like damsel in distress, the kind of old. She was very much, because of like, we tried to take it down a bit of a noir tone, and then obviously have the neon things just to make it bring that dreamy essence to it, so you couldn't really work out where you were and what was really happening. And Rosie's character was very much of the femme fatale that you would see, you know, your Betty Boops and things like that. And she had a really interesting job because obviously she has lines like "You're never gonna love me," "All you see me as is a whore," and things like that. And she related that on a different level, and she played the part completely differently to how it was written. And it was like much more hurt and woundedness behind her eyes, I think. And I think that was a surprise. The guy that ended up playing the clerk, or Clark if we're in England, but someone said it in the first take and we're like, well, it looks like we're going with Clerk. We only cast him like 2 days before shooting, because unfortunately the original one had to drop out because he got a job with Channel 4, and I couldn't begrudge him that. And so I hadn't actually until he turned up on the day, I hadn't actually seen him do anything. But yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So I suppose it would be really good to sort of delve into. So you've had a lot of really good things which have happened on set, things which really surprised you and helped make it. And you mentioned a few difficulties, for example, with the room itself being like a furnace because of the summer. Were there any other challenges at all which you felt that you would like to try and maybe avoid in the future, or something which you maybe just took you by surprise and, you know, that was just a challenge there, a unique challenge perhaps, or something that really struck you as being a difficulty?
Every single day of the shoot. Because it was like I would do those 5 days again in a heartbeat. Like you were going to bed at like 4 a.m. No, you were going to bed at like 2 a.m. and getting up at 4 a.m. and like a few hours sleep, and then you were just like going and going and going. The fact that we got a 45-page script done in that time was astronomical. But it was, I think location was a big thing. Obviously, if we'd had the ability to do set builds and stuff, we would have done. But the hotel that we were in, they were so accommodating. But like in that room, you had the heat, but then you'd have like the neighbours, TV on in the morning, showers start happening. Then we did the lobby scene. We only had a few hours, and people were still trying to check in, and so like you had to stop everything you were doing and call out the staff to be able to do the check-in, and that was difficult. And I mean, even funnier, people kept coming up to the clerk and being like, "Can I check in?" And he was like, "Help me." And then obviously the woods was at like 2 a.m. freezing. Like like I said, every day presented its own unique things. It's not that I would change them, because there's not a lot we could have done. It's just filmmaking, but it's surprising. You can think everything is going completely to plan, then you get there and you're like, "Oh God." What's happening?
Based on those challenges, is there anything you've sort of learned that you would do differently next time?
All of it. Like even like I mean, it's hard. Like having more crew. We had to take hits in certain places, but we did have a lot of people on hand that could help us. We had to double up a lot of roles, and I think as well just things like, I suppose, it's not being more prepared, it's learning from that shoot. Like, you know, they're having to transfer all the data, that takes time from hard drives. Like the different batteries that you need to have between all of it and stuff. That's a big thing as well. Because lighting started running out, and my monitor, that was something that was constantly. Sorry, I've just got something that's popped up. That was something that the monitor that I was using to look at all the footage, that was the same batteries that powered the lights. So when the lights were starting to go, I was like, screw it, take my battery. I just trust that you'll be doing what. And again, that presents its own things, because then when I got into the edit, I was like, oh, if I'd seen it, I would have tweaked something like that. Which, don't get me wrong, that was like, they were minuscule things, but because I didn't have that. And so like I said, you learn from every shoot.
Absolutely. Just to confirm, Hendrik, where are you based?
Worcester.
Okay. So we've found this. We're based in the East Midlands. We found that cool. It's there are different challenges that you face when being not in London, for example, or not in a major area. Now, of course, you're quite close to Birmingham, but have you felt that you've had any particular challenges based around where you are located, for example? Or have you been quite open with keeping the production as countrywide, or is there any kind of, do you like to keep it close to home, or open, or is there anything in particular that you'd like to do, or just quite open?
I would say it's a bit of a mixture, really, because supporting local talent is a big part, because there is actually, when you start scratching the surface of an area, there is a lot there. But also when it came to the cast especially, and my DP, like DP came from Kent. We had some cast members from the Midlands, someone from just down the road, but then we had it from all over. We had as far as Hastings, and I think that it depends on the job. You can keep it local, but you do have to also do the best for your project, and it's finding that balance. I did acting myself for about 5 years before this, and so I travelled all the way around the country, and I never felt I had to move. I actually think I'm quite lucky to live in Worcester. I mean, it's quite central. It's 2 hours to pretty much everywhere. Yeah. We have 2 train stations, soon to be 3. We have 2 motorway junctions. We're quite well equipped in this area, but there isn't a lot going on. So in August, I've just opened up a film studio in the centre of town, to try and generate some more stuff there right near a major station. And also, like yourselves, I'm actually working on founding a film festival for Worcester as well. But I'm kind of going on the what I want to do for mine is, I know it sounds silly, is to make it, I suppose, less about the film, because it's had a film festival here before that didn't really take. So what I want to do this time is I've enlisted the uni, the council, some private businesses, the rugby club, and we're going to do like a citywide, like get bars involved. Like there's a great 30s bar, so like imagine like going to watch The Great Gatsby whilst having like a cocktail in there. Nice. And so we want to use venues like that, but then also use some of the local cinema venues that are going on, to show stuff. I mean, next year will be even better. There's a friend of mine, he's opening up a charity cinema that's just to give jobs to people that can't get work, he was been in the acting business all his life, and he like knows various people. He's got some really interesting, I can't ruin the surprise, but he's got some really interesting, like quite A-list big speakers to come and do a Q&A when the cinema opens and stuff. So we're trying to culminate that, because my whole ethos is I'm a creative. I love telling stories. I love making films in whatever form it is. And the one thing I've always resented is having to leave, because why should I? Like lots of other people, they can do their jobs from here. Why is there nothing creative? And so it's trying to change that. And that's why I'm working with the uni to try and build retention. So after a few years, those students, they don't have to feel they have to leave the Midlands. They don't have to feel that they have to leave even Worcester, and they can actually get the work here. And then coupled with people like Stephen Knight, who makes Peaky Blinders, putting that £200 million studio in Birmingham that will rival Pinewood, we'll see a lot more coming to the Midlands, which is why I wanted to open a studio, because now's the time. I mean, it's actually, I think for a number of years, it's been a perfectly poised point to start pushing it, because you can do it now. I mean, phones. I mean, I think a part of Avengers had it filmed on an iPhone because they couldn't get the camera down the streets and stuff. Wow. And then there was that snowball fight that was just put up by the what's it called? The John Wick director. Did you see it? All filmed on an iPhone 11.
Wow.
Check it out.
Okay.
It's really, really cool. But you can do so much now. You can pick up a camera. You can edit. You can do a lot from home. You don't need to. London doesn't need to be the place anymore. And I think there are hold-ons for the industry, but I think it is starting to realise that you can be anywhere. So it's only as strong as you want to push your area to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's such a good message. And I think the one that we try and push as much as possible, because you're exactly right. There is, in this digital age, I mean, you can make a film literally anywhere, and actually some of the locations which we have in the Midlands and anywhere in the UK, they're just amazing, and they don't get seen enough. And there's people which are struggling away, who rightfully deserve to be seen and have their voices put forwards, but maybe because they're not located in London or one of the big places, that they don't get to show off their work. But as I think we all know, there are extremely talented people everywhere, and really, it's a really good thing to try and do. So all with you there. Would you say that All That You Love will be helpful to you in sort of promoting what you want to do? Will you use it, for example, as part of your mission, I guess, or is it about moving on to projects and making more things to sort of show that there is a sort of a momentum trying to be built to sort of keep what you're trying to do going forwards, or are you sort of using all that you love to really knuckle down and say, look, this is what I can do. Let's do some more great stuff.
Well, I think it's a bit of both, really, because all that you love has changed the game. Because I mean, the first film I did, I was actually doing it, like I said, I did acting, and I was doing it I kept getting these roles through from my agent, and like for self-tapes, and the one that came through was for a bouncer,
right?
And I was like, my stature-wise is not very tall, and so I read the script and I had to do this self-tape, and then I was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I mean, sometimes you have to look at yourself. No actors will be able to do absolutely everything, but it got to the point where I was like, and the way I speak, I was like, I don't think anyone is going to believe. I'm like, excuse me, sir, could you just I just didn't think it was going to be a very I started thinking, well, how can I make my show reel better? And I liked writing. I'd done it all my whole life, and so I thought I'll write a short film. And so I think the film cost me about £10, and I wrote, directed it, shot it. I acted in it with the main actress for a bit, edited it, color graded it, produced, marketed, so I basically did every role except make the music. And she came up to me and she went, look, I've been doing this for years. I've never had an experience with a director like that. Have you actually thought about doing something like that? And I thought, well, no, I hadn't really. I on the off chance, I sent the film off to film festivals, and it won 2 awards, and was nominated for Best Feature. It was meant to be a short, but it overran considerably.
Know the feeling.
And it got nominated for Best Feature at a BAFTA nominated festival. So I was like, well, maybe I should look at this, and that's why All That You Love came up, because I was like, I need a project that I can step back completely and just do very much the writing, directing role of. I mean, I did the producing as well, but that was my main thing, to see, can I do it? And I absolutely loved every minute. And I think that's kind of what moved me into then doing Wild Hunt, where again, just stayed completely behind. And that's where I will probably go from here. Just keep doing shorts. Yeah. But we're gearing up for our first feature next year.
Fantastic. Hopefully. Hope that goes really well. Do you find, I mean, I think that you've mentioned this to me, Al, having experience of being an actor,
complements you. It helps you to direct actors, doesn't it? Like, you have that experience of acting yourself. You know what works, and then to be able to then translate that into direction. Yeah, it is a massive bonus. So wouldn't you agree, Hendrik?
Well, that's one thing I found in that first short, when I couldn't get the actress to perform it how I liked it, because sometimes even when you're trying to explain, when 2 people are thinking different things, you can't always get it exactly across. And so I did the scene kind of with her, as if I was being her, and she got it. And I actually found that helped me a lot. And because I did a recurring barman role on Doctors, the daytime soap one, for several years. So I'd been around sets that had loads of, so I understood the etiquette, I understood how everything went. And I think the experience, if anything, that's the biggest thing I would say to people, to actually go out and actually go in front of it and get rid of all your fears, get rid of all those things, and actually give it a go in front of the camera, because I actually think it gives you invaluable experience to do it behind it. Because the one thing I found when I moved into directing is I didn't know it was an option for me. And I think that's the one thing. When you hear film or you hear creativity at university or things like that, there's drama, there's things like that, but you don't know these roles are out there. I assume for director, because it's like the top dog on the set, that you would have to work your way up to it after several years. So I never actually occurred that it would ever be a possible option for me to do. And I think that's where the whole idea needs to change towards creativity, because it's not. Because it's actually more of there is a technicality to it, but it is an art form at the same time, because you've got to, it's like the writing part, you've got to translate this into a visual thing that makes sense to people. And because luckily we have a really good relationship, because one of the color graders from Encore, they do all of the Bond films and Peaky Blinders, the Post House in London. One of their color graders follows me on Instagram, and so I contacted her on the off chance for All That You Love, and I was like, can you help me out? And they were like, "What was your budget?" And I told them, and they're like, "Oh, we don't even start at that." But they they really kindly, they worked out a deal for me, and so I was able to go into the same booth that Peaky Blinders was color graded. I had my All That You Love done, and I was talking to her about how she got into color grade, and she said when I went to do it at uni, didn't even know it was a thing. So she did editing, because they do the big blocks of what people know, but they don't tell you that these things exist. And she said she was working on a David Attenborough documentary, and she went into the studio where it was all being cut, and she was like, "Wow, this footage is amazing." And then she had to take something someday to the color grading guys. She went into the room and she was like, "What? How have you made that look even better than the raw footage was?" And she went, "What even is this?" And they were like, "It's color grading." And so they brought her in, and they taught her everything they know, and now she's worked at this post house doing all these great things. But she was like, "I didn't even know that was a job, a separate job to do."
That is it.
And so I think that I'm sorry, I got a bit off topic there.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
No, it's that's the sort of thing which really I certainly feel. I think you've said this to me as well, Al, that people don't quite understand how deep this industry goes, and there's a job there's a place for everybody, and what you learn today might be completely different to what you end up doing in 5 years' time and in 10 years' time, and that's why it's one of the best industries to get involved with. So yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely, it's fun, and it can be a very inclusive place if we let it. You know, it's I think it is gradually moving more in that direction of being it's not as much of a closed circle as it once was. Like you say, everybody can try things now. Everyone has the capacity to.
That's because there's people like us in it, though.
Yeah.
Because it was very closed because it was so hard to get into. So when you get in, you close ranks. But now with social media, the internet, networking, the world's a different place.
Absolutely.
It's not. It doesn't have to be. And the thing is, everyone has to pull their weight. You're all aiming for the same goal. It's one of the most fantastic things because all of you are responsible for this one end product. Whatever your role is in that is there. It's not like. I suppose it's the same even in engineering. When you're building something, you're all part of that thing that makes that whole work. And I think that's why it's so important. And I don't get why people try to underhandedly sabotage things, undercut, or they're divas, or they're mean on set, because it doesn't work. Like, reach out on Facebook, send someone a message. You see something you like, drop them a line and be like, "I love that headshot, I love that show reel," because we work better together as creatives. That's the whole point.
Excellent.
100%.
Such a good message.
Yeah, such good. Absolutely.
Well, that's really, honestly, very good to hear, and I completely agree with you. Just a final few questions, if you don't mind. I suppose the first one would be, you briefly touched on everyone's trying to reach the same goal. What for you is your ultimate goal? Where do you want to be right now? If you said maybe in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, what would it be?
Well, I think I would have to say I would like to be writing and directing films, but also running what my studios that I'm doing at the moment, because I know the reason I opened the studio was because I want to be doing this, but I'm also very aware that you are at the mercy of bums on seats, and you could have The Godfather 2 and release it. If no one goes to watch it, no one's going to know that you've made this fantastic, amazing film. It doesn't matter. And so I've seen a lot of production companies, like, over the years, because I've always loved film, and I will watch them, and I'll see the logos, and then they'll stop, and I'll look them up, and they disappeared. They didn't get enough people to go and watch something. It flopped, and all the rest of it. And they're not necessarily bad films, but. And so I wanted to build a foundation on which that would be sturdy. Hence why the studio and the film festival, those arms I wanted to build in alongside the studio, would be something where that core thing would be always something that is untouchable, and then the films can come and take their hits as they please as time goes on. That's kind of, I would like to still be doing these things, and hopefully, we've, like I said, gearing up for this first feature, and I have my eye on some great actors that I would like for it. So at the moment, I would say that's my dream, because I think that would be a really good project.
Yeah, fantastic.
So that's
how can people follow you, Hendrik? How can they keep up to date with what you're doing and support you in any way that they might be able to?
Well, we've got a website, harmswaystudios.com. We've also got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all Harms Way Studios, so people can find me absolutely anywhere. We've also got a YouTube channel that's we put up all over the shorts and the trailers and all of that on. So pretty much everywhere you can find me. Just look for Harms Way Studios.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Do you have any final questions, Al?
No, that was
that was brilliant. Yeah. Honestly, fantastic. It's inspiring.
Encouraging.
Actually. Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys.
So that was a great interview from Hendrik. I thought it was really interesting, a lot of the bits that were covered in it. I think he shares a lot of his ethos with the way that we work as well as a festival, and it's really great to hear about his upcoming festival as well. We'll be sure to keep an eye on what he's doing and support him where we can.
So if you want to learn more about our film festival ourselves, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're on all three. You can also visit our website at www.whitedeerfest.co.uk. Check out all the previous podcast entries there, as well as how you can get involved with the film festival itself.
Yeah, you can listen to those on the website and also on wherever else you get podcasts. And you can watch it on YouTube as well, if that's the kind of thing that you're into.
Absolutely. I certainly am.
Well, that's good. So. Well then, you get the treat of seeing my face on this episode. And I may be interviewing on some future episodes. That's a bit of a spoiler alert, but
I think everyone will be happy to hear that, to be honest, Adam.
Well, you're very kind.
That's all right. Now, as promised, we do have that waiver code that will give you your 10% discount to entry to the White Deer International Film Festival. The code, as follows, is all capitals WDPODHH01. That's WDPODHH01. Make sure you enter that when you submit your film to our festival for a 10% discount.
Excellent. Well, we'll catch you next week for our next episode. We've got another one recorded that's very interesting. We won't spoil it now, but we'll let you listen then. So, see you next week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.